Ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, dogs, cats, whatever little menagerie you've got going in here, it is time for another check-in with virtual reality, part of Boundless Living, part of the Bob Doyle Show. How many more brands can I throw in to confuse you? Let's find out. Just stay tuned over the next few weeks. I could probably fit 5 or 6 more brands with my name on it to confuse you. So look, not that long ago, well, it was about a month ago, I guess, I shared a virtual reality program as part of the Bob Doyle Show, and I think I did a separate little broadcast on it too, called Richie's Plank Experience. And I was really excited about it. The basic concept, and here's what it looked like to refresh your memory. The basic concept of the game, ostensibly, is that you're going to face your fear of heights by walking out on a virtual plank at the top of a very tall building and, have that experience. And I mentioned that the real, quote unquote, real way to do it is to get an actual plank, put it down on the floor, put on your virtual reality headgear and actually walk on a real plank while you're walking out onto this virtual plank to give you that experience. I have not done that yet because I just don't have planks hanging around, oddly enough. But I love the concept of adding that other level of realism to it. But as I've said, if you watch the thing, and I'll put a link back to my original sort of demo of it, as I said, the real juice in this game for me was not so much the plank as you see going on in the background here. So this is just to give you the experience. This is now you're walking out. Now I cut to it. I cut away from it real quick because what I'm showing you here is the different areas of the game, which we'll talk about, the different modes of the game, including the painting mode and the putting out fire mode, which that's where the juice was for me because it really comes down to it. What you can see is going on in the background is there's some serious Superman flying going on. And I got to tell you that is probably one of the most exhilarating VR experiences I've had so far. There's lots of games that I've downloaded where there's a flying type of thing, but there's something about the way these guys have put this flying mechanic together, the control you have, the city that you're put in, and the music that's playing in the background. It just creates an amazing experience that I've been very excited about. And so I reached out to the developers, Tony and Richard Easties, out in Australia from Toast. Is that correct? Let's meet Richard now. All right, hold on, Richard. I'm not hearing you all of a sudden. Did you change anything? Oh, you muted yourself.
There we go.
All right, we had all sorts of audio challenges before this. So, all right, so welcome, Richard. It's going great. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. So I reached out to you about a month ago, and you guys were getting ready to go on what was called Honeymoon Part 2. Is this like a second honeymoon, or are you guys actually recently married?
Recently married.
And so you did a short little thing, and then you took the trip to Italy. Is that correct?
Yeah. We did the robotic honeymoon in Tokyo and then the romantic honeymoon in Europe.
Oh, how fun. Well, you guys timed your honeymoon, this second honeymoon, like right at your launch. You launched this thing and then said, "See ya."
Yeah.
That was wild.
So it was exciting though, yeah.
I guess. Let me ask you something. So first of all, Toast as a development company, is this your first title?
It's our first title.
It's your first title. New. So you guys were interested in development of games, I guess, for how long? Like, how did this come together? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I've probably been meddling with game development for a decade, but only as a hobby.
Okay.
Maybe a couple of hours a week, if that, and just learning, see how it works. And then when I knew I probably couldn't ever make a career out of it. Like I had another job full time, and it was good. I knew that it's hard to make a living in the games industry. But when virtual reality came out, I was like, oh, this is like the start of a gold rush or a new age. And people that get in soon have a bit of an advantage. So I was like, I can do this quite easily. I'm going to do it. And here we are. Now, there's 2 of us full time on making virtual reality games.
So you've got other games in development right now?
No, we'll make Richie's Plank Experience perfect.
Awesome.
And then we'll move on to the next one.
Yay. Because obviously I could sit there and go, I wish you'd do this. I wish you'd do this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the initial reaction, first of all, because it's called Richie's Plank Experience, and congratulating on your award of worst title for a game or something. I saw that up there. So tell me a little bit about like the conceptual, the concept of this game, and when you went in, because when you in your advertising or your marketing, it lists like, here's what the experience is, and then there's these bonus modes, which are the painting and the other. What was your original intention? What did you think was going to happen when you released this?
Yeah, so just so you know, we weren't the original. We didn't come up with the planking experience.
Okay.
Like, we actually tried it in Tokyo on our honeymoon.
Okay.
In Japan by a company called Bandai, and it was at a VR arcade, and it was brilliant. It was so good, and it wasn't coming out for us to play at home and show our friends. So we just thought, well, I'll spend an afternoon and we'll make it. And it was pretty crude and ugly, but it was so much fun. We're like, let's take this further, and then we might be able to sell it. So I want to give a lot of credit to them for making it. It's quite genius.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple of other things since then also that put you on the top of buildings and something. But I'm telling you, you guys are getting a response for such a basically simple game. I mean, it's not levels of complexity. There's no huge inventory you have to keep up with. It's just experiences that are super, super fun. And but what's interesting to me is the things that at least come across in your marketing as afterthoughts, like, oh yeah, there's this paint thing and there's this fire thing. It seems like those are getting the bulk of the attention. Would you agree?
So it is, and it was a bit tricky on our part. It was a marketing thing. Like, I know the value of surprise marketing, and that is underselling and over delivering. So we could have really pushed that flying aspect before we sold it. And then people would be like, oh, yeah, okay. But because it was unexpected, when they tried it and bought the experience and then pressed that button where they can fly, they're like, holy crap, I did not expect to have this included. So
that's right.
From the start, it was an intent to surprise people. Then they feel compelled to log on and leave a good review.
And they have, and so you know, your marketing, or you're putting this out here. Is it primarily only through Steam, the Steam service?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only through Steam at the moment.
And how's that working for you? Just as a developer, this is your first project. You put it out on Steam, and then you get this response.
Yeah. So if anyone listening has published a game before, you know that you have a lot of sales at the start, and if it stayed like that forever, we could retire. But very quickly, the sales drop down, and then I think it will get to a part where it will like normalize and then just stay steady for a while. If that makes sense. So at the moment, it may be enough for 2 people to live on, but it will keep declining. So then we have to do more. We need to keep doing more. We definitely can't retire, that's for sure.
And you have set the bar high for yourself with this one. So I love the idea that you are going to, because I see a lot of these early release type games that basically get abandoned. You know, the developer puts them out and then says, well, whatever, the response wasn't, which I guess is fair enough. It's the risk you take when buying early access. But all of us are hoping that is not going to happen here. So I'm really curious. So just to set the stage for the people who haven't really checked it out or haven't watched the video, we're talking about a handful of city blocks that you've created for this experience with buildings of various degrees of realism and reflection and things like that. You've got your cars that are driving around, very tall buildings, lots of, it's interesting. It's an interesting environment. And there's something particularly satisfying about flying around in it because of the perspectives of the super high things and the view from above and just how high you can go and the speed with which you can go. How long did it take you to kind of nail down the flying mechanic? What's the right speed? What's the right amount of flow? I mean, just all of that stuff. How much trial and error? Yeah.
So let's say I spent, for every hour of coding that I did, there was 10 hours of fine tuning and getting the flying just right. So it might seem quite simple. It's just put your hands out and pull the trigger. But behind the scenes, there's a lot happening. So I'm constantly adjusting the gravity and the wind drag. So sometimes it might be like I attach an invisible parachute so that you slow down. And it's not realistic. But however, it might feel natural and realistic. So sometimes good games do that. They aren't realistic, but they've made it to be fun and easy and enjoyable.
A lot of the car driving games that are too realistic, they aren't fun for me. It's like, I don't want this. I want to just drive around real fast, right?
Yeah,
So there
that's
is
it.
something, and you guys, the way you fly around and the acceleration,
Yeah,
the ability to the whole range of the trigger is really responsive to how
yeah,
fast you're going, and that which allows you just to hover in place like
yeah,
Iron Man or something. It's great. The
yeah,
superhero experience
yeah,
is phenomenal. So I'm curious
yeah,
now. You've gotten all this feedback. Flying is clearly what people are excited about.
yeah.
You acknowledge that there's still work to do. What are your plans? What now? You guys are back from your honeymoon, and I imagine you're going to get back
Yeah.
into it. And you've probably got now a month worth of feedback. You know.
Yeah, lots
So
of feedback.
like, what's your first approach?
Well, today we're releasing our first major update,
Woohoo!
and it's Halloween, so there may or may not be a spider surprise,
All right.
which might spark on other people's fears, not just heights.
Perfect.
Yeah, but I think what you might be asking is what are we going to do after Richie's plank experience? And
Well, no, I actually am talking about like within the experience now, like more
sure.
buildings. Are we going to get a bigger city
Yeah.
block? Will it not just go off into nowhere? You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so there's a few bug fixes, obviously, today, and the city now looks a bit more realistic. There is a few more buildings. The population has grown. The city is bigger. One of the next updates in the next few weeks, obviously, I would love, no promises, but I would love to have a more like a suburbia. So you can then fly around to suburbia and back to downtown. It's fun. I love flying around downtown, like up over a building.
Yes.
And then down the other side. It's like I felt like I was in the Superman movie.
It's so hard. Well, it's impossible to explain to somebody what it's like, because they can watch the video, and I've said it on every single one of my virtual reality. I'm always with the disclaimer, guys. This does not do it justice, right? And this is definitely one of those situations, because it's just that whole being there type of thing. So
it's amazing, yeah.
But the game elements in the program are really, really minimal. I mean, you're putting out fires, and then after you put out the fires, that's basically it. But it's more like, okay, yeah, whatever, fires, fly. I want to fly. So are you?
Yeah, that's it.
But are you thinking of putting more game elements on? Or are you just about enhancing the flying experience? Like, what's your major goal for overall improvement or adjusting to the game at this point?
So with the firefighting, you've discovered that. So I think there's definitely more firefighting elements that can be done. Like, you're a fireman. Firemen of today don't just go around putting out fires. So there might be some other save the day kind of things that he has to do.
Okay.
And we can just keep adding more and more stuff like every week. And I believe in the process of constant improvement. So if we stop improving this, within a few years, we won't be getting any more sales probably. So we need to constantly improve it and we're always going to be adding things here and there. And what else would you like to see, Bob?
Well, oh geez, I mean, I love first of all, I love the freeform flying. I love the painting. You know, that to me actually surprised me. I was thinking, well, there's only 7 colors or whatever, and you know, there's these big poofy things. You don't have to it's not like tilt brush or something where you can actually go in there. But what I found though is when you create these sculptures, basically these paint sculptures up in the sky, there is something wildly satisfying around flying around them and along them. And like, I would like set up like roller coaster tracks basically and just follow them around and fly all around just for that feeling.
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
So I guess, just anything that and I love being able to just like sit right next to the birds, these random birds that are sitting there, and get right up in their face and stuff. So I don't know. I think just anything that results in that, because there's just something, and we'll talk about VR in general here in a second, because there is something, and one of the reasons, of course, that Boundless Living as a personal development company is going this way is because it can be so empowering. It can truly change your emotional state, which is, obviously one of the great things about VR. A game that is mildly scary, flat, is terrifying if you put on a headset. I still can't play the horror games. If it starts dark and I just see vague movement, I'm like, nah, I'm not ready. I can play it on the screen, no problem.
Yeah.
The scariest game ever I can play on the screen. You put me in it, and I'm just like, where are they? Where are they? Where? And it's just so funny because of course I know nothing's going to touch me, right? I'm not going to fall off the building. I'm safe.
Yeah.
But there is just something really amazing. So let me ask you about just a few, I guess, philosophical questions about VR. You said, obviously, you saw the opportunity, which is great. And if you want to speak to that a little bit to developers, because I'm even seeing, now there are some people out there who have created VR titles who are clearly bigger developers, have, and levels of complexity that are crazed. But it's not really necessary to create a very impressive VR experience right now to have all of that. And in fact, I think for casual gamers like myself who don't even like to play inventory-based games in 2D, we don't want something complicated, especially if we're introducing VR as a concept to people new. Get in here, fly around. That's simple, right? So what is your, I guess, philosophy? Do you only plan on focusing on VR as a development company?
Yeah, only VR.
Okay, so tell me where you're seeing, before we talk about the big picture, which we discussed a little bit, but where are you seeing yourself as a developer putting your focus in the VR space, and why?
Yeah, so I could have been making mobile phone games or PC games. However, I'm not good enough to compete with the 1,000 other games that were published today. And even if I am okay at it and I make an okay game, there's still millions of other games to compete with on, say, mobile. It's just, I feel like there's more opportunities in virtual reality. So I would urge developers or anyone interested in making games just to check it out. And it's like the start of a new era, back at the start of the mobile phone era.
Yeah. So here, creativity, it's almost like it's a much more level playing field than before. Yeah. And we've got tools out there of various degrees of complexity to create for developers, budding developers to do. Now, I, for one, am looking at Unity as the platform. That's just the one I chose because that's the one I heard about from a friend. They said, it's free, it's fairly easy, there's lots of assets, go for it, right? Yeah. And so I've started taking some of those courses just to understand how it works and to be able to, just get a feel for developing in VR, which is freaking awesome. As we talked about a little bit, there's something just so satisfying about even just creating a cube. Yeah. Your first virtual reality cube, putting on your headset and go, I did that, and it's right there. And then when you can pick it up and that kind of stuff, it's just amazing. And your game is it's not as simple as a cube, but compared to some of these other games, it is fairly simple. What are you developing in?
Unity.
You're in Unity too. So and I love that. Whenever I see Unity, or I get excited because that's the tool I'm using, and this is awesome, which means I could in theory do this, right? Or have somebody on my team do it. Yeah. But so after you wrap up Richie's Plank experience, do you kind of know? Do you have any idea, like when you go, okay, we call this done?
Yeah. We'll probably do something with the flying. Yeah. We found that people love flying in virtual reality, and we've had a lot of excitement around that. So our next experience will probably be to do with flying.
Just to continue putting flying stuff out there. Well, I mean, as long as you've got something that's working, then I think that's a really smart move, because people will. I think you're really going to establish a base of rabid fans. Which, again, your title, when it was released, there was some roughness around the edges here and there, like a lot of titles do. Like, oh my gosh, this car vanished or whatever, But it just doesn't seem to matter to people because they get where it's going and they get the spirit, which is not the case all the time. I mean, some people, some reviews of early access stuff are brutal. This isn't finished. You shouldn't have put this. That kind of stuff. Really, really brutal. But this one just seems to be universally loved. Yeah. There's just something, and maybe it's the title, Richie's Plank Experience. Yeah. So now, is that just going to remain the title?
Of Richie's Plank Experience. Yeah.
Why change it? Right. It's Okay.
So it's because as soon as we published the video about what we're doing, another company said they're doing another one, and our names were similar, and we're like, no, no.
All right, well, this is
So,
Richie's then.
Yeah, we'll just name it something ridiculous, and yeah. I think what I was going to say. Anyway, keep going, Bob.
Well,
This is great.
okay. So the flying. So again, that what's great about flying is it's that empowerment, which is, one of the things, in my world, one of the first applications I wanted to do was like a guided meditation thing where you could put yourself in different scenarios and all that, and then it's done. So another company did it, and they did a fantastic job. So for me, my philosophy isn't about, well, I'm going to do a better one necessarily or compete. I just want to contribute to the space.
And we want there to be competition, to be honest. Like, I want more developers to get involved and compete with us, and we'll help you out. And I know that I believe in paying it forward and to help each other out. We're in it together.
And I do get a sense of that spirit in the VR community, at least right now. I subscribe to a lot of VR newsletters and things like that, and it just seems like we're all just excited together about where it's going. I mean, you get the occasional, Rift, Vive, whatever.
No, like we're all friends. Like, we're competing with we're competing with other businesses in other industries. So we're competing with TV. We're competing with Netflix.
There you go.
We're competing with mobile phones, and even though we're competing on a small scale, on a big scale, we're competing with other industries altogether.
Let's talk about mobile phone for a sec, because my first experience with VR was on the phone with the equivalent of a Google Cardboard viewer. It was actually something else, and then I got a Google Cardboard, but a handheld VR stuff, and I was amazed. I loved it.
Yeah.
It was like, yes, the resolution is crappy and all of that, but again, I've always seen, well, it's not always going to be that way. This is going to get better and better. And of course, by that time, the Rift was already almost a thing. The Vive was, these were just about to launch. And so, I played with the handheld stuff for a while, and then of course got the Vive, which I guess, this is clearly a Vive only title for you as well. So you chose the Vive as your platform for now?
Yeah. We'll be coming to Oculus as well.
Great. So that you can use their hand controllers now?
Hand controllers, correct.
Okay, cool. Because that's pretty necessary. You have to be able to do the Superman extension. You can't just.
We won't bother if it's with a control pad. It's not the same. Arms out.
Yes. And what's fun is when I do those videos for demos, I've always got that video of me in the corner actually doing it, and it's just so funny how ridiculous we all look.
Yeah.
When we're in
the arms out actually came from a user, and so we want to promote that more. So we by the way, we listen to all of our feedback from anyone that gives us feedback. We listen to it, so please keep sending them.
Yep, I noticed that.
Keep sending your ideas, Bob. Keep them coming.
Well, I will. I just assumed that, they're going to get inundated, and I didn't know what your development cycle was, and then of course you were gone, so I didn't want you. Wasn't going to hear. Now that you're back, here's my list of demands. Right? But again, I love the spirit with which you approach this. Now we talked a little bit before about the philosophy of VR. Now one of the fun things to think about for me was when this technology started going. Sorry about the dog.
Oh, that's right.
I think they're fixing a window. Anyway, but the way that I've always looked at this is where this technology is going, VR, AR, all of it, where it's inevitably going. Because if we know how to do it, we're going to do it. Okay? We're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, which suggests, why would we think this is the first time? Like, we're the first. Which eventually dovetails into, how do we know we're not a simulation? And in fact, I've seen several things that would suggest that there's a fair amount of evidence that our entire experience is in fact a computer-generated simulation. And to me, it makes sense because, well, we will do that. We will do that. If it hasn't been done and we're not, we're going to get there. We will create artificial life that doesn't have any clue that it's artificial and let it go.
It's a mind freak. If we're not a simulation, we can make we can make this one day. Yeah.
Right. And of course we will. And you know, and this sounds conspiracy theory-ish, but we all know that what the technology that you and I have access to isn't anything what is out there.
It's a stone axe.
Right, exactly. Someone somewhere is laughing at our delight at putting headsets on it, you know.
Can you think the caveman when he first made a stone axe? We would probably laugh at him going, "Woo, we made a stone axe."
That's exactly right.
Laughing at us about
exactly right.
You put a hole on your head.
Yeah. So to me, it's like it's kind of like what the odds that we are this is the first go round are. You know, and then of course, coming from a world where I do a lot of exploration into quantum physics and things like that, it's like that's a whole other conversation. But the likelihood that all of this, as real as it seems to us, and as free-willed as we have, is in fact being generated, and we just don't know. We could be left running. We don't know. There's all sorts of fun science fiction out there that speculates on this.
And there's still unsolved science phenomena, like when a beam of light passes through a slit. It will, if there's two slits, it'll go through both. If it's not being watched, but if someone or something is watching it, it'll go through. But
yes, there are buckets full of interesting quantum physics experiments like that show all sorts of things. And one of the big ones around this conversation would be that time is not in fact linear, but it's all happening simultaneously and on different dimensions and all of this, which again, this whole idea that we are a simulation, and what's fun about that, I mean, it's a fun thing to think about. It can be. Well, see, that's the other thing that it can be, because like, well, what, do we have no free will? Could someone just delete us? What's the deal? But I think to me, there's something really fun and empowering about it, and it becomes like, well, I want to be the one to break out of the matrix, right? I'm gonna figure this out or whatever. How much are we a prisoner? Doesn't even matter, you know. But we also, it's interesting because then we can look at things like deja vu and coincidences and series of things that just seem unexplainable and go, oh, well, if this is a simulation, though, that would make total sense that would happen, or there's a glitch, or there's a whatever. Anyway, it's just.
Do you think, Paul? I have a question for you?
Sure.
If suddenly the world learns that we're a simulation. Kind of like back in the day when the world learned that the Earth is round. But this might be a bit different. If we learn that it's a simulation and people believe it, will there be anarchy? Will people stop obeying the rules? Will they care if they hurt someone because they're like, oh, who cares? It's just a simulation.
That you know what? That is such an unknown because, first of all, I think there will be denial. I don't think there's any way that everyone will believe it. Right. It's just like there's just they're programmed to deny. Right. And also, how much are we programmed? If we are a simulation, how much are we actually ever going to allow access to that? You know, that knowing. Like maybe it's written in that we can't. I don't know. Are we we got to break the code?
Yeah.
You know. But I would imagine that if your scenario, if all of a sudden it's like there would be this, I think there would be a lot of chaos. A lot of chaos because people just go, oh, well, there's no repercussions because this isn't real anyway. You know, you're dealing with all sorts of different programs running with these mentalities out in the world. It's a deep question. And I'm sure more and more movies and things like that will explore it. But I remember seeing The Matrix, and I think a lot of people left The Matrix going, that's it, that's totally true. I know that's what it is. Yeah. And then you kind of roll your eyes at them for a while, but then again, as this technology moves faster and faster towards this, it's a lot of times that science duplicates science fiction. You know, It's like there's so much that we looked at with the forward thinkers who wrote this science fiction. They said, well, let's see if we can do that, right?
Yeah.
I always say this too about time travel, but if we ever get to the point where we can create this, then to me it just shows that it's probably already been done, and the odds that we are a product of that are pretty good.
Yeah.
So
Elon Musk said it's like 1 in a billion chance that we're a base simulation, that we are actually real.
Right.
Yeah. And he's pretty smart.
He's a pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, well, that I love talking about that. It doesn't stress me for some reason. In fact, in some ways, it gives me a certain amount of a sense of lightness and freedom, because I don't think about it as, oh my God, I'm predestined to go this way. I don't know. I think this is a weird conversation. We've taken a weird turn, but
It's exciting. It's exciting.
but it begs the question: if we are a simulation, how much, if any, ability have we been programmed with to realize it? Clearly, people are already speculating into trying to prove it. But then what? Then what if we do prove it? If we know it? If we know it, does that give us access to breaking out of it? And then if we do, what's on the other side? Or are we just digital, or not?
Yeah.
We either exist in this way, or we don't exist, and then it's craziness. But
Stop. It's too much.
it's so much fun. It's
It is, yeah.
But to me though, it also it's all energy, and it's all so whether we're the first base incarnation or whether we're digital bits, it's still all energy, and energy follows certain rules. And we all, of course, me being a person who talks about law of attraction and sort of manifesting your reality and working with the universal laws of energy and so on to create blah, blah, blah. It's actually more exciting to me to think that it just puts me even more in line with that we are the same stuff as everything else. That for those following the conversation, I mean, it's just if we're in it, then I just feel like it gives us even more of an ability to construct or whatever. But it's interesting now that here we are. If we are a simulation, we're now constructing realities, and we already have games like The Sims and things like that are recreate simulations of human life and so on. That within these simulations, we're already teaching them to build computers or whatever. Like the characters in our games are already creating the next level down. Yeah. It's just a matter of time. And if it's just a matter of time, it's probably already happened, and here we are.
Yeah, that's it.
So I always wonder if this conversation's being viewed on a monitor by some 11-year-old kid who programmed this, going, look at him talking about it. Whoops, I just he's right under my ear. Hold on.
Wave at them.
Yeah. Hey, kids. Yeah. All right. Well, let me just make sure that I haven't missed out on anything regarding the actual. Oh, well, let's get back to the game for just a moment.
Okay. Sure.
Just to tie that up. We talked about the game elements of the fire. That's really the one game element. There's a fire, put it out, but there's no real repercussions at this point. The buildings don't burn down. There's no lives to lose, which I like. It's just a fun, stress-free. You can let the fire burn and burn and burn and still fly around and go, I'll get to as far as I know, right? So that's cool. And with the painting, here's my big suggestion for the painting, which I think I've already said, and please. I think somebody else has too. To being able to ditch the palette, like you can ditch the hose in the fire thing, so that you can fly real quick. And I don't know if you're looking at adding more colors or changing brush parameters or whatever, because there is just a lot of really cool stuff you can do with just the art aspect of it. So I'm wondering if the painting module, if you have any plans for expansion for that.
Yeah, so my wife Tony, she keeps begging for an erase button. So it's going around, and if you make a mistake, and and there's been requests of it being faster, because with the skywriting, I really slowed the flying down so you can be more precise and
which makes sense to me.
More relaxing.
Yeah,
but I might make it if we add the 2 rockets. So, it needs to. It might just get messy. If there's 2 rockets, people feel compelled to use them. But I think that also might take away a bit from the simplicity of the
It's possible.
skywriting.
One of the things that happens to me is that when I'm painting sometimes, and I've got the brush off and I'm flying around, I might accidentally, my hands might move in, I might change a color when I don't know about it. That's happened. So just
easy. I wanted it to be so easy, you just had to tap it. You didn't have to pull the trigger or anything.
And that part I like. I like that too.
Yeah,
it is like just tapping into a palette, which is cool. It's just so big that it's easy to hit.
Yeah,
and that's the one thing that I found. But overall, even the Plank experience, we didn't even talk about the cake and the donuts and different things like that. That there's just little variations to the game that you go out to the end of the plank to then you have to like bend down to pick up you know, a donut or a piece of cake or something in this virtual. And there is something about bending down, like you're okay standing up, okay, I got this, but there's that bending down, and as you do, you're on this little tiny plank and you're looking down the city. So it's really ingenious, and I really like the way that it does potentially help people deal with their fear of heights, especially when when you are just flying. Now, if you fall off the plank, which I say in my little demo, you do fall, and you go into the afterlife. There's no blood or splatting or screaming or anything like that. It's not it's not terrifying or anything. But in the other two modes, there's really no falling. You can gently go down, I think, in the fire, and I think you stay put in the painting, right? So if you
stay put in the painting,
you don't go down at all.
Just can I just add just two things quickly?
Of course.
One, would you want to see racing in the flying? So race like Iron Man style characters, and you race them around the city.
If you actually have, I mean, now are you talking about like it's a single player thing, not a multiplayer?
Single player still.
Yeah. So now obviously you can only go so fast with your rockets. So if you're going to win, there'd have to be some sort of strategy. Otherwise, it would just like what. But yes, some element. I like the gaming element in there. It gives me something to do. Oh, and of course, the other thing that I mentioned is the music is great, and I want more, and I want it to loop when it's over, because I stay in flying. I could stay in there for freaking ever, but the music's done in 5 or 10 minutes or whatever, and I'm like, I got no soundtrack anymore. And and it's the same with the painting. The music choices you used just fit this wonderful. It just puts you in this great creative space, and there's something about the majesty of it. There's just brilliant stuff. Now I am curious about the music. Where did that music come from? Is that something that you licensed?
Yeah. So funny story. The good news first is I licensed the music on a website called Audio Jungle.
Yep.
Which has thousands and thousands and thousands of tracks, and it's painstakingly searching through them all. Spent hours searching through them all to find ones that are suitable.
Yep.
Which sucks because I'm listening to them all day sometimes, and every 10 seconds they say
Audio Jungle. Yeah, I know.
And you kind of ignore it eventually. So I wrote one of the relaxing songs myself on like GarageBand. But one of them I bought from like an independent music guy online, and I thought he was the rights owner to it. And a fan wrote to us and said, that's from a Final Fantasy game by Sony.
Oh, no. Yikes.
And I'm like, oh, crap. And so that's now removed.
Okay. So, was that in the build that I actually have?
Yeah, in your next update, that song will be gone. It was one of the Zen songs, but luckily there's still good assortment there. Yeah.
I mean, we can always run our own playlist through and listen to whatever we want to when we play these things, but we'd have to have the option to turn the music off, which I don't think. Do you have that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, but I love the music so much. I would just like more, but now I hear you. It's like, do you have any idea how long it took me to find the ones we use, right? But to be able to loop it at least, so it's not just silence.
Okay.
Just that's something I think I mentioned to Tony. Anyway, I just like the instincts that you guys have with this. I can't wait to see what you do next. If it's another flying game, fantastic. And I would love to know as time goes on just how long. You were talking about that hit that you take as a developer, because I'm getting into this space as a developer eventually, to see how that first initial hit happened. And you guys, this is an $8 game as we talk. This is not an expensive game. So let me go back to what I was saying before. The whole reason I brought up the phones is that I know that there are people who are watching this who are fascinated by this idea, but are not ready to go out and plunk down $800 for hardware and things like that. Are there any plans for you? Do you have any desire to do any phone-based VR applications?
Yeah, yes, but only when they allow you to walk around the lounge room. Yeah. So for me, VR with the ability to move around it's the VR that I believe in, and that I'm most excited about. So I think mobile phone VR will get there. It's just not available yet.
Yeah, well, they keep working on it. I mean, if Google's going to put out stuff and invest into it and all of that, and as long as the price point is, if for the big stuff is going to be in the upper hundreds, it's going to be a while before people are just buying it in droves. That will change, obviously. It'll get smaller. It'll get wireless. It'll get awesome.
Yeah.
You know, here in just the next few years. But there's all these early adopters.
Yeah. And people look at the price and be like, oh, that's too expensive. But then they spend more than that on an iPhone 6 Plus, or back in the day, a computer cost about $5,000 equivalent. And I'm like, so $800, yeah, it's expensive, but for me, it's quite a profound purchase, and it's definitely money well spent.
I agree with you, and I think even if next year, in my case, this is not everybody has the intestinal fortitude for this, but even if next year the Vive is basically antiquated because they come out with a wireless thing or even better, I'm still glad I did it, right? I'm still glad I invested in the early, got my feet wet, got the experience, kept my excitement going, started developing for it and all of these things. So, you know, it's technology that's not going anywhere. It's staying here. It's only going to be more and more integrated into our life. I think there's people in my generation who can probably get through their life and ignore it, but not after this. You know, like my kids and all that, it's going to be a huge part. Augmented reality, I think, is really the where it's going for the mainstream, because it isn't as isolated as VR. But VR will always have its applications for various things, including games and countless things. But the point is, it's an exciting technology. It's great to be in it on any level at the ground floor. And I'm super happy for you and Tony for. So is she a developer too?
No, Tony's doing the marketing and all sorts of stuff.
Okay,
yeah.
So you're a team in there, but you are the developer of this title, and it's your first title. So congratulations, Richard. It's great stuff. It's really good. I'm so happy for you. I'm glad it was well received. You know, I can't wait to see. The first thing I'm doing this week when we get off here is downloading the update and getting in there and flying around. That's like number one thing I'm doing. But it was great talking to you and great meeting you, and I hope that we can stay in communication as you do more things. I would love to continue to talk to you, continue to share your work with people, and just good luck, congratulations, awesome job, and just keep going.
Right. Thanks, Bob. Great to chat to you.
My pleasure, as always, as if we talk to him all the time. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Richard Easties. You didn't meet his lovely wife, Tony. Well, I guess you saw her in the background. I can't remember, did you see her in the background, or was that before? Anyway, it doesn't matter. You met him. You've seen the program. If you've got, just check it out. Check out if you have. This is, again, one of the main reasons I'm excited about VR is simple programs like this that allow you to have a feeling that you would probably never have otherwise, a feeling of empowerment. In this case, it's the flying thing, but in other cases, it's other things. To be able to go in there and be in a virtual space, it may seem too new agey, it may seem too out there, it may seem too sci-fi. Once you get in there and it becomes a real experience for you, I promise you, you're changed. Every single person I've talked to who's put on a virtual reality headset and spent any time in there at all has taken it off and gone, okay, now I see what you're talking about. All right, that's it for this particular episode of the Bob Doyle Show, Boundless Living VR version of it, whatever the heck brand it is. We will check you again next time we've got something really super interesting to talk about.